that I began working at the University of Rochester in the year 1990. Before that, I was working for 5 years at the University of California in San Francisco. And then I came to the University of Rochester in 1990. And at that time, in my department of psychiatry, there were not any persons who specialized in providing mental health services to deaf individuals. Although Rochester, New York, my hometown, has a huge deaf population. In fact, we believe we have the largest per capita, the largest percentage, the largest per capita deaf population in the world. There are many tens of thousands of deaf people who live in my city. And it's not that big a city. It's about a city of less than 1 million people. And by far, American Sign Language is probably our second or third most common language in Rochester. Everywhere you go, there are deaf people. We have deaf doctors, several deaf doctors. We have deaf lawyers. My veterinarian who takes care of my dog and cat is deaf. But we have a deaf dentist. We have many deaf psychologists and other professionals who are deaf. And I began So I arrived in 1990 in the Department of Psychiatry and began providing mental health services to deaf people myself and writing grants that are both training grants and research grants to bring more individuals to help me do my work and achieve my goals. Right now I have a staff of about 6 people. All of us are fluent in American Sign Language. 4 of my staff are deaf, 2 are hearing, 2 are psychologists. 2 of them are master's prepared mental health clinicians. 1 is a sign language interpreter, but she is a researcher. She doesn't provide interpreting services to us because we're all fluent in sign language. And we have many deaf young people who come to us for professional training in both clinical services and research. We provide outpatient mental health services to deaf people in our region. We provide, I'd say in an average year, we probably have 3,000 appointments with deaf people per year, 3,000 individual contacts. We provide individual psychotherapy. We have all deaf psychotherapy groups. We serve families, etc. We probably at any given time are serving approximately 100 different deaf individuals at any particular time. And as I mentioned, we are very committed to the education of deaf people at higher educational levels, at the master's degree level and at the doctoral degree level. In the United States now, I would estimate that we have maybe 30 or so deaf psychologists, and most of them have been trained through the Deaf Wellness Center, at least in part. Our medical school has trained deaf doctors. One of our first-year medical students right now is a deaf person who's a primary sign language user. Sign language is her first language. So my university and the Deaf Wellness Center in particular has a long and proud history of educating deaf professionals. As I've mentioned, our research work includes a number of different topics pertaining to mental health, also a number of topics pertaining to the field of sign language interpreting and sign language interpreting in mental health situations. We're doing more and more work in the area of public health and deaf people. That's the topic which relates mostly to my work with intimate partner violence, that is domestic violence. And we have an affiliated program, a sister program called the National Center for Deaf Health Research at the University of Rochester. and my staff works for them sometimes, and they work for me sometimes. And we do research on the health of deaf people. Everything from cancer to motorcycle accidents to cardiovascular health, many different topics regarding the health of deaf people, because there is very little that is known about the health of deaf people. I'm going to spend a little while on this slide. And let me begin by telling you the purpose of this slide. This slide is going to be a description of something I mentioned earlier, and that is developmental opportunities that we can influence as a deaf individual becomes older. In this slide, which you have in your program, the bottom of this triangular shape represents birth. And I will be putting words down that will represent age, people getting older and older in the, what I like to call the windows of developmental opportunity that pertain to different ages. And the point of this slide, which I'll repeat at the end, the point of this slide is going to be this, that there is no such thing as a psychology of deafness. I'm often asked, would I please give a talk, would I please give a workshop about the psychology of deaf people? And that is not true, because there is not one way that deaf people develop in terms of their psychological health or lack of psychological health, any more than there's a psychology of Taiwanese people, or a psychology of women, or a psychology of Jewish people. People are different, and even within specific subcategories of human beings, there's going to be some who are healthy, there's going to be some who are not healthy in a psychological way. And what's more important is to not make presumptions about a group of people and their potential for psychological health or psychological problems, but instead to understand what contributes to psychological health in a group of people. What helps move somebody towards psychological health? And in contrast, what types of difficulties tend to move somebody towards psychological problems? And that's going to be the point of this slide, that with each opportunity, we have a chance to move a deaf person more towards psychological health, or if we don't do a good job with that, move a deaf person more towards psychological problems. That's going to be the point, and I'll repeat that point when I'm finished. So, if we talk about birth at the bottom of this figure, and we're imagining here we're talking about a child who's born deaf, all we have at this point in this imaginary story of a child born deaf is their hearing doesn't work. So we have a problem in audition, which just means hearing. There is no problem in personality. There is no problem in intelligence. There is no problem in reading or writing literacy. There is no problem in the kinds of occupations they could have, their intelligence to be a doctor or a veterinarian or a dentist, as I said. All we've got is a problem with hearing. That's all, nothing more. And to believe that deaf people are limited simply because of a loss of hearing is incorrect. You see, however, that I've added this plus sign after the audition term there. And what I mean by that plus sign is something medical. At least in the United States, and believe me, everything I am saying comes from my experience in the United States, so forgive me if your experiences are different. But in the United States, there are two areas, well, worldwide I'm sure, there are two areas of medical work that over history led to a greater and greater number of deaf individuals who have additional physical or neurological problems than used to be the case 50 or 100 years ago. 50 or 100 years ago, there were many causes of hearing loss that just left the child deaf, and that's all. The rest of their body was healthy, the rest of their brain was healthy, and many, many people who are deaf, educated 50 years ago, 100 years ago, were extremely intelligent, extremely high-functioning deaf people who just had a hearing loss. But over time, the field of medicine has found ways to prevent different kinds of hearing loss. And, for example, some people who are deaf, particularly some older people, lost their hearing because they became sick as a child and had to receive a medicine that took away their hearing, a medicine that made them deaf, an ototoxic medicine. Ototoxic medicine, which means a medicine which made you deaf. But that medicine saved their life. As medical science has advanced, we do not have so many ototoxic medicines anymore because science found ways to cure those illnesses without causing deafness. That's just one example. I could give you many other examples where the causes of deafness have been diminished and have become less frequent because of scientific advancement. A consequence of that is that more and more in history these days, when people are born deaf, there is a higher risk of additional physical or neurological problems. Now, there's a second area of